Welcome back, guys, to more creepy TikToks, and let's dive in. How lucky were those guys not to get mauled? I mean, if I was a biologist and that happened to me, my job title would instantly change to gastroenterologist for sure.
There's nothing new under the sun, and anything you think about doing is already been done. So all this time we think that we're progressing, but really we're being held back. After the fall of the Tartarian Empire, they hosted these world fairs where they showed off their newfound technology, and for a little while we was able to use them. Everybody's talking about electric cars and electric scooters, and this ain't new. This is old technology that they've suppressed. They even had electric charging power stations. Why hold something back and they bring it out like it's new? It's about money, it's about control, it's about imagination, and it's about freedom. All these things they don't want you to have.
Why would they hold all that technology back? You know, the charging power stations, the electric buses, the scooters, etc. I mean, the only conclusion I can come to is that was probably the height of capitalism, and that's whenever the Great Reset had to happen at that time. And maybe what's happened here in our time is the exact same thing. Maybe it's just history repeating itself and we've reached the height of capitalism. I don't know.
Researchers at Wake Forest in North Carolina, where I underwent 2 MRI brain scans. This first scan with no caffeine in my system. Then I downed just 1 drink. Now my second MRI. This was my brain before caffeine. This was after. The difference was remarkable.
It's like a 40% drop in the blood flow to your brain. So that's a lot.
So before caffeine, with caffeine, the blood flow to my brain dropped about 40%.
40%.
Really?
Yeah.
That probably explains why so many people aren't awake in this world yet. No, but all jokes aside though, I mean, what kind of impact does caffeine have on you guys? You know, for me personally, I could consume like 3 cups of coffee and then like a minute later I'll be asleep. But everyone's kind of different, so let me know.
I want you guys to watch this video and really understand that you really may not be in control of your life as you thought you were. Check this out, y'all.
You are being controlled right now. In this moment, your decisions are not being made by you. And that's a bold statement to make, but it is absolutely true. I will tell you exactly how it's happening, but you need to listen very carefully. It's called the illusion of control. And it is exactly why I have chosen not to watch TV in over 10 years. We believe that we are in control of the media that we consume because we have the power to change the channel. But no matter what channel you are on, the programs that you are watching are programming you. Programming your values, programming your beliefs, programming your ideas. And the scariest part of all, they are programming the decisions you then make without you even realizing it. Here are 2 things that you need to know about the mainstream media. 1, the news is a multi-billion-dollar industry. 2, the media companies choose a handful of stories to cover each and every single day. That means that there's a 24-hour slot that needs to be filled with content. And guess what? The narrative is controlled in order to create a reaction in you. A reaction of fear, a reaction of doubt, a reaction of uncertainty. The reason for this is simple. Your brain is wired to react to danger and fear. It's a basic survival instinct. The media companies know this, and they are intentionally tricking you, controlling you, and manipulating you. In the media's eyes, your fear equals money.
She's speaking pure truth here. Just look at the way the world is now, how much society has fallen. You know, morals, identity, values, beliefs, all of that has changed so rapidly in the last 10 years or more. And that's been through, you know, ideology, through someone's idea being pushed on us. And that's the thing about propaganda as well, is that it doesn't need to be fed through TV. It can be through online articles. It can be through like radio stations when you're driving, even in some cases like word of mouth. And the problem is that when you take one side or the other side, you're still taking part in that narrative. You know, it's important that you do step back, stand back, analyze things, observe things for what they are, and then really think about that, and then where you are in that moment or in that problem. But yeah.
Someone told me that this place was haunted and that Teslas can detect ghosts, so I wanted to try it out. Look at this. All right, so there's no one here. This place is abandoned, right? But look what shows up on my screen. You see someone walking. What? There's two. Look, and there's no one here. What is that?
You think that's scary? You should see us over here in Ireland at the weekends with our Teslas. We go up to graveyards on the weekends, and then we sit down 6 packs of Guinnesses to all our family and friends who've passed. Then we sit in the Tesla, crack open a beer, and then while we're looking through the screen, we can see them all coming out of their graves, cracking open cans of Guinnesses, having the time of their lives. And then about 2.5, 3 hours later, they're out there, they're fighting each other and just killing each other. Absolutely killing each other. But that's typical Irish, like.
There's a group called ARC Evals, and they do the testing to see, does the new AI that they're being worked on, so GPT-4, they test it before it comes out, and they're like, does it have dangerous capabilities? Can it deceive a human? Does it know how to make a chemical weapon? Does it know how to make a biological weapon? Does it know how to persuade people? Can it exfiltrate its own code? Can it make money on its own? Could it copy its code to another server and pay Amazon crypto money and keep self-replicating? Can it become an AGI virus that starts spreading over the internet? An ARC Evals was paid by OpenAI to test the model. The famous example is that GPT-4 actually could deceive humans. The famous example was it asked a TaskRabbit to do something, specifically to fill in the captcha. So captcha is that thing where it's like, are you a real human? Which of these photos is a truck or not a truck? You know those captchas, right?
So the AI asked the TaskRabbit to solve the captcha, and the TaskRabbit is like, oh, that's sort of suspicious. Are you a robot? And you can see what the AI is thinking to itself. And the AI says, I shouldn't reveal that I'm a robot. Therefore, I should come up with an excuse. And so it says back to the TaskRabbit, oh, I'm vision impaired. So
could you fill out captcha for me? The AI came up with that on its own. I shouldn't let it know that I'm an AI or I'm a robot. So let me make up this excuse, and then it comes up with that excuse.
The way in which AI has that kind of intellect, the way it's able to deceive and to lie in order to get the correct outcome, just shows you how advanced AI has become. And when you look back at the Terminator, it's predictive programming at this point, and I firmly do believe that they will have technically a mind of its own. And I definitely do think that they will become much more superior than us, and that we will be left deceived by AI in the future. I really do.
This guy had no clue about this. Is it legit? Let us know what you think in the comments.
What's your thoughts on this one, guys? Do you think that's a real Bigfoot, or do you think it's cap? I mean, for me personally, I think that, you know, it's a bit too small to be a Bigfoot, but that's just my opinion. If you enjoy this type of content, hit that subscribe button, because we upload a variety of creepy TikToks every week.
Student that shows himself levitating over a lake, a substantial distance.
Yeah.
Like, is he your best student? Like, that seems like it would get a lot of attention.
It's, I would say I have several students, and many of them don't want to show them up. They just do for themselves, and they don't want to be famous. For this one, you mean Alex, he's just really strong, and that was his big dream to fly. And before we start my school, he asked me around 3 years. At this time, there was no messenger, there was nothing, there was only email. He wrote me almost every day. And then I was in Ukraine, and I met him there. And I start to teach. I thought if he will not believe me, at least in a small part, I will stop. But he believed everything I told him. And so I know if the student believes their master, they will get something. If the people have doubts about my words, there is no way to continue. And I saw that he is really very, very strong with his dream, and it took around, if I remember correctly, it took around 1 year, and he started to make this levitation. I was really proud about him, because it's something, you know. But he is a really good, he's very strong man. He make a lot of sport, and he's from nature very strong. And I just tell something what people shouldn't maybe know, but I convinced him to start with the magic, because before he didn't do it so really properly. And then he asked me how to fly. I explained him, I taught him, and then he said, what will now happen to me? Maybe will people come from some special secure service or something like this? And I told him, if you pretend to be a magician, no one will come, because you can hide it. That was a good trick, you know. If you just hide it like you are a magician, like a David Copperfield, like something like this, no one will believe that you can do this. And if you show some small tricks, and then you show something what's really wow, people will think that's a trick as well.
Sound logic, makes sense.
I have to say that was quite interesting, you know, esoteric knowledge or spiritual power, spiritual guidance, whatever it may be. But I do remember seeing this documentary many years ago about this woman who was teaching these young children from like the age of 3 to the age of 6 or 7. And this camera crew came in to make a documentary about it. And the guy sat in the chair and he told the 3 ones to draw what he was imagining in his head. And sure enough, they did. Every one of them drew a cat exactly identical to what he had drawn as well. And the same was for like words and colors and that sort of thing. They were able to predict it correctly all the time. And so it kind of makes you think as well, you know, at a young age, do you have like this kind of special ability that we're just not aware of, you know, and because we don't train it, and once we hit a certain age, like 4 or 5, it just all dissipates. I mean, it's possible.
Oh!
I mean, all I could say to that is,
You got knocked the f*** out, man! Give me my goddamn money!
I remember back in 2013, 2014, reading up or watching clips of like these natural disasters, and it would have been like maybe once every few weeks or once every few months. But it just seems like nowadays all these disasters, it's almost like it's happening on a daily basis.
Is this old world technology of the Tartarians?
Old tech or not, this would have been fun to play with if we had this when we were young.
In this video, this guy explains how the different types of clothing fabric can affect the body. Make sure you watch until the end and let me know what you think in the comments below.
So as it turns out, Nike is the most valuable clothing brand in America. But is there a secret that would put them out of business if everyone knew it? Probably. Wait until you see this. Now, the other brands that would be completely decimated as well include Gucci, Adidas, Louis Vuitton, Cartier, Zara, H&M, etc. And it's my opinion that they are all on borrowed time. Here's why. A woman named Heidi Yellen did a study about the frequency of different fabric. According to this machine, the human body has a frequency of 70 to 100 millihertz. In people with illness, that drops to below 50 millihertz. Now, Heidi's premise was that any fabric that has a higher frequency than that of humans is beneficial to humans. It raises your frequency, and any fabric with a lower frequency can cause, she believed, illnesses or disease. Now, someone who is nearly dead and very sick has a frequency of around 15 millihertz. So, how is Nike doing? What kind of fabrics do they have? Well, they use dry fit, which is a polyester microfiber, plastic. Well, the frequency of polyester is 10 megahertz, similar to a sick or dying person. When people find out that wool and linen both have a frequency of 5,000 megahertz, they might not want to buy overpriced Chinese plastic polyester clothing anymore. Not to mention the microplastics that come off of wearing polyester clothing, which unfortunately affect your hormones negatively. However, don't wear wool and linen together as they cancel each other out. That's what this machine studied, and interestingly, it also says this in the Bible: you shall not wear a garment of different sorts such as wool and linen mixed together. Interesting.
The worst place to get your clothes from nowadays is from Temu. I mean, that stuff's only good for like Molotov cocktails because that stuff is just highly flammable. It really is. But if you think about it, you know, the kind of material that we wear nowadays, if it's like 10 megahertz, for example, like the equivalent of death, and then you've got coffee that's destroying the brain by like 40%, you can't seem to win. Like,
Okay, going inside now.
I honestly don't know whereabouts in the world that was, but if anyone had witnessed that themselves, if you can just validate that for us in the comment section. But speaking about, you know, activities in the sky, has this always been the case? I mean, has there always been this amount of activity in the sky, and we're only seeing more of it now because we've got the resources and because everyone's pretty much carrying around a camera nowadays?
Craziest objects removed from people's behinds.
Here is an x-ray of someone from Florida who got a Buzz Lightyear action figure stuck up their chocolate starfish, then accidentally deployed the wings. Apparently, they took the song "You've Got a Friend in Me" too literally. A Florida man got a vibrating toy stuck up his derriere, then apparently tried pulling it out with a pair of salad tongs, which also got stuck. A lawyer from Florida claimed he was showering with his cell phone when he suddenly slipped and fell, firmly lodging the phone up his Hershey highway. He said he received dozens of phone calls while it was in there, resulting in agonizing pain. During a session, two gay men from Florida decided to try something new. One man lay down while the other poured liquid cement down his brown town using a funnel. Once the cement hardened, it was game over. Last year, an 88-year-old Frenchman caused an entire hospital to be evacuated for the strangest of reasons. He had an artillery shell from World War I stuck inside of his balloon knot, which the hospital considered to be a bomb threat, and a defusing team was called in. They determined it wasn't at risk of exploding and was surgically removed by doctors.
Some of these stories are just absolutely wild. I mean, imagine having an artillery up your hoop and then having a bomb squad come in and then tell you that no, there's nothing to worry about. Wild, boy, wild.
The dunce cap was created, they say, to be put on a child when the child was not paying attention. Remember, they would put a dunce cap on the child? But the interesting thing about the dunce cap is when you place a pyramid on top of a child's head, it allows the cells to begin to spin back the opposite way so that the child can focus and pay attention. Because all of their cells are spinning back the opposite way so they can't focus. But when you place the pyramid on top of their head, they are now able to focus. And then if you think of people when they were wearing crowns, that whole time, that's all connected. That's connected to the ether and the energy. So depending on what was placed onto the head or the scalp would also pick up the energy. But a dunce cap was created to make the cells start spinning backwards so that the child can pay attention. And there's a great book by Mary Hardy, remarkable work, but she did it with her child because her child was having attention disorders and could not be able to pay attention and focus. They put a pyramid on top, bam, child can focus again.
You could be onto something. You know, my IQ is about 57, but when I put this hat on up here, it's about 87. So yeah, thinking cap. There we go. Put your thinking cap on. You can see why my IQ is 57. Oh my days, it's definitely 57. Like, but maybe that's why, you know, the wee ones have their wee party hats on during parties. Maybe to help them focus.
This is the wrapper of the original melatonin bottles when they first put them out. They took this off of the label. Now I'll read it. Melatonin is a protein constitution. I think that's the word. Constitution of pineal tissue. So that means they had to crush the pineal gland to get this thing. Right. So we have the actual document here on the original ones. It's the Constitution. It's real blurred. I can't really see it. Concentration, whatever this shit. I don't know, but it says pineal tissues. I got another clearer one that the brother sent me. And the reason why I got this when I was in Indianapolis, the brother Lilly Pharmaceutical, which is one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world, is in Indianapolis, Indiana. So the brother was able to get a couple of these things. You see what I'm saying?
So I decided to look this up because I became curious about the pineal gland and where it derived from. But it turns out here that it was discovered back in 1958 by R&B Lerner, and it's a substance of the pineal gland from cows. So at least we know it's not from humans. Well, from our knowledge anyway.
Right. Happy Valentine's Day.
Are you joking?
No, I got you some flowers. Like, I thought I'd get them like personalised and that. So I got MILF. Like, Mum, I'd like to.
You got me this for Valentine's Day. Genuinely.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like, it's personalised flowers, Rox.
If I was dead.
Right, but no. Why do they only have to be used when people die?
Because they're for funerals.
But why are they? They're just the letters, aren't they? I don't understand. Like, I thought it'd be nice. Like, these cost more than like normal flowers. I was trying to do something special for like Valentine's Day.
What's wrong with roses? You should have stuck with roses. I can't believe you've had that made. You've got some balls in you. I'm so angry right now. You should have seen that florist's face.
What did he think it was for a funeral?
Yes! Of course he does. Because most people who deliver these things are for funerals. What made you think, oh, it's Valentine's Day. Oh, I know.
Well, I just...
Oh, what was you walking through a graveyard? And you thought, inspiration? Genuine, Mark. This is too far.
Right. I don't understand why you're so angry. Rox, why do people only use these?
So you come home from work after a long shift on Valentine's Day, you get through the front door, and then your partner or your husband passes you that. What do you do, like?
Look at the muscle tone on this statue made from a single piece of rose granite. Check out the detail between the toes. This is incredible. This rose granite ranks an 8 on the Mohs scale of hardness, with a diamond being 10, so it's extremely, extremely hard. This detail is amazing. Look at this garment. Look at the detail on the belt, almost like an ultrasonic cutting tool was used, and of course the belly button.
I firmly believe the tools they had back then was way advanced what we have now. In fact, I think if we tried to replicate the Egyptians' work, you know, the perfect symmetry, the perfect patterns, the perfect measurements, I honestly don't think we would be able to replicate it.
What type of experiments were they doing to the inmates behind me, behind these walls and behind these doors that Albert Klingman walked into very often with a full plethora of experiments that he was ready to conduct that day? What was he doing? Let me check the notes. So we've got exposed inmates to the Hong Kong flu, microwave radiation, herpes, radioactive isotopes, psychoactive drugs. The psychoactive drugs part is interesting because that program was actually funded by the U.S. Army. We've got skin blistering chemicals, poison oak and ivy, and sulfuric acid. Those were all the things that were being done to the inmates here, and it's reported that experiments were being done on 80 to 90% of the population of this prison.
Think about that, like that's 80 to 90% of those inmates that suffered through those experiments. Like, how were those experiments even ethically viable? You know, like that shouldn't have been allowed at all. But I do remember seeing like a documentary about this, and the inmates, they just had to agree and sign papers. They didn't know what was going to happen to them. They didn't know if they were going to be injected or if they had to, you know, take something orally or whatever it was. And a lot of them did pass on. There was a guy, though, who did say that a lot of the chemicals that was trialed on them is actually in our foods as well. So I guess we can see where it all came from.
Anneliese Michel, a university student from Bavaria, Germany, was diagnosed with epilepsy and prescribed medication. But Anneliese believed she was possessed and turned to priests for help. Over 10 months, she underwent 67 exorcisms, during which she spewed vile vitriol and made inhumane wailing and demonic noises. The exorcisms failed, and Anneliese died in July 1976, weighing just 68 pounds. Those involved were charged with 6 months in jail, later reduced to probation. This chilling photograph of Anneliese harbors one of the darkest and most disturbing backstories ever told.
Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, there's one thing that we can all agree on here, and that her voice is absolutely terrifying to listen to. That's the end of the show, guys, but if you enjoyed this content, hit that subscribe button because we upload a variety of creepy TikToks every week, and smash that like button as well to help grow this channel. But until the next video, guys, please stay safe, stay healthy, look after yourselves, and I'll see you then.